Well, we all know that keeping the passion alive in a long-term relationship can take some work, especially after those first few years have passed and things start to settle into a familiar routine.
But with new figures suggesting that 1 in 4 older couples live in what is defined as a sexless marriage, we're asking, does getting older mean calling a time on any intimacy in the bedroom?
Well, one woman who thinks it does is Sara Collins, who has been with her husband for 23 years and believes that there's far more important things to be getting on with than sex. Alongside her is sex and relationship expert Annabelle Knight, who thinks that she might just be missing a trick. So welcome to both of you. So you were happily married to Graham for 23 years. Sex at first, at it like rabbits.
Absolutely.
And so it was when you had your first child that
Yep.
things started to change.
That's right, yeah. So, which was absolutely fine. I'd had so many miscarriages. We'd been trying for a baby and I wasn't able to retain them. So as soon as I did get pregnant, that was it. Graham didn't want to touch me, obviously, you know, for safety reasons. Then after I had her, I was breastfeeding and he felt it was just inappropriate for us to have sex.
But that's sort of, I think, in many relationships, that's very common.
Very common.
But for you guys, it went further.
Yeah.
Less and less, and then none. And then after your third child, separate bedrooms.
Yes. Well, the separate bedrooms actually came about when our second son was only 2. I just wasn't interested. Actually, he snores, I snore. I have ME, so I get very, very fidgety in the night, and I suffer with that quite a lot. So it just seemed a logical thing for us to have separate rooms.
And did you both agree on this at the same time? Because you normally find in relationships one person's sex drive might be slightly higher than the other, and people deal with that in their own individual ways. But you both agreed that this was just something you didn't do anymore.
We've got a really open, honest, transparent relationship. We talk about everything, absolutely everything, and that, I think, is the most important thing.
Did you make that decision together then? Did you sit down and say, we're just not going to have sex, or was it a slow realisation that after a while you just hadn't had sex?
Do you know, I think it was just a progressive thing.
Well, he said, Graham, it's your husband, he said, I'd gone past caring. I don't even bother asking anymore.
That's right.
So it sounds like it wasn't something that was necessarily openly
agreed upon.
Agreed.
I think it was... That's kind of slightly taken out of context in the sense of that he would never push and push and push and push. If I say no, that's it. Yeah. Absolutely. He won't keep pushing me.
Do you still fancy him?
Absolutely.
So how come the fancying stops at wanting to tear his clothes off and make love to him?
So we live in a situation that's probably not the norm. We have 3 children, 5 dogs. We live with my mother-in-law. We're in a very small house, and finding those intimate moments is actually really difficult.
Are you intimate outside of having sex in terms of kissing and cuddling and affectionate?
Yeah,
so
very
it's
affectionate.
just the sex that is taken out of your marriage.
Yeah.
It's gone further than that because you offered to pay for a prostitute.
I did, yes. After I had my second child, I had really bad postnatal depression, and I felt that I was pushing him away, which, again, is quite normal with women with postnatal depression. And I did actually say to him, and I told my counsellor this at the time, that if the actual sexual act was that important to him, I would even pay for him to go to a prostitute, because it's just sex.
So how would you feel if you had an affair?
Well, we're very open about that. Again, if either of us felt the need to go and have an affair or, you know, be intimate with someone, as long as we're open and honest with each other, that's fine. We've had that agreement all our relationship.
He went on to say it never should be the only thing in a relationship. There should be much more than the physical side. Now, 1 in 4 over 50s agree with this. Their sex lives come to an end.
Well, you know, in your 50s, regardless of whether you're a man or a woman, your libido does drop. Women, it's a significant drop. It's around about 50% around the menopause time, and men, it's about 12 to 15%. So in your 50s, you do have a decrease in your wanting to have sex, but it is still there. So for a lot, while it might be 1 in 4, there are 3 in 4 couples that do still enjoy a healthy and regular sex life.
Well, who's to say that having no sex at that age is not healthy?
It's clearly working really
if you
well.
don't want it,
you're very
and
happy,
you have no need for it, and you're not missing it, then that, you know, no one is there to say you should be having it.
I suppose the danger is that Graham obviously would love to.
Yes.
You don't want to. That's where it becomes difficult in a relationship if it's unbalanced.
It is an effort. Sometimes after a long day, you've got kids, you know, your living situation isn't ideal. But after a long day, you do just want to go to sleep. But if you just take the time and make the effort, most people I speak to might say, oh, you know, I really didn't feel like it. But once it was initiated, I had a great time. It's kind of like going to the gym. You might not feel like it, but once you do it, you're really glad.
Do you think you're just out of habit now? Do you think it's like anything?
Possibly. I mean, it really isn't the foremost thing on my mind.
Yeah.
Do you know what? If I feel like it, and so does Graham,
then you would.
Great.
So
absolutely.
you haven't ruled it out entirely?
Absolutely not.
What
No.
would your final piece of advice be to...
I think having a really healthy life, if you're suffering from a low libido, you can improve it naturally by kind of consuming zinc-rich foods. Protein helps keep a healthy brain. Exercise is really important, not only for keeping you internally very healthy, but with exercise comes a positive image of yourself as well. And sometimes that's what is missing. Just keep looking after one another, and if it doesn't happen, and it's not the end of the world, and don't put too much pressure on yourself, because the more you stress about it, the more cortisol you release, which is a hormone directly associated with stress, the less sexy you feel, and it's just never going to happen naturally.